Dr. Suzanne is actually one of my friends on Facebook, and she made this post on the Twitter a couple of days ago, and I came across this yesterday, and I wanted to share this with you. I used to be into rap and listening to it when I was younger. Now, as a 40 some odd year old woman, even in my 30s, I would hear this stuff, and the misogyny and the sexism and the vile nature of the lyrics would just jump out and it would hit me. So this tweet definitely touches my spirit. I feel the same way. She says, I've been getting a lot of DMs asking me why I hate hip hop. She says, I will never forget Ice Cube's giving up the nappy duck out. Hip hop, 50 years of selling the black girl to the world for entertainment, black teen girl degradation, and black women as well. She says, I want to share with you the lyrics written by Ice Cube. No Jewish man or woman made him write this in 1991, by the way. And here are these lyrics. These lyrics are deplorable. So she shared these lyrics, and I'm telling you, this is just hard to read. Her little bitty twat got gallons of semen, 14 N words in line, ready to bang your pride and joy. I mean, daddy's little angel. Tell the little B word to bring her ASS out the house because your daughter's known for giving up the nappy dugout. Misogyny inside the Black community is real, and Black women are not spared, regardless of their cultural backgrounds. Now, I know that the Ice Cube of right now has rebranded, but the seeds of misogyny and debauchery and just degradation has been planted. Him and other rappers planted this decades ago. And the poisonous fruit of that misogyny has grown into what we see today. And it's still prevalent. And no amount of family funny pictures can erase the harm and the poison that him and his cohort have done to the Black community. Mary Ross says, I dared to leave a silly comment on a Dr. Dre video about him signing Eminem. All I said was, Dre knows it's not about black or white, it's about green. That was it. Over 6,000 comments later of nastiness. And I just want to highlight that Dr. Dre is also part of the poison that has dropped seeds into the Black community and grown into what we have seen today. But he is still being celebrated 30 years later and never been held responsible for his violence towards women. Dr. Suzanne says, you went up against the Black patriarchy. How dare you? You are not allowed to, no matter the crimes, you are to report zero. Joe says, brave of you to speak out. You will be accused of betraying the Black tribe and giving Whitey a free kick. I once chatted with a U.S. Indian woman from New Mexico who lived on a reservation. She says she had to keep quiet about male Indian culture, couldn't give Whitey a free kick. Dr. Suzanne says, I know the threats to women who speak out are chilling, especially women inside their non Anglo cultural group. I could say more, but alas, yes, women are not allowed to speak out. Women are supposed to accept misogyny and violence in order to protect the men of that cohort, but women are not protected. So women need to stop doing this. So, what do you think about Dr. Suzanne and what she said about rap? What do you think about rap? How do you feel about it? I feel pretty much exactly the same way, especially as I have grown up and I can hear how terrible this stuff is and know and understand that it is part of the reason why we have so many problems in this community right now. Let me know your thoughts. A woman named Holly on Twitter says, women should normalize giving men a pop quiz like this at the end of their dates, like a dating comprehension exam. Forget waiting on him to ask you out again. Ask him if he even knows a thing about you, like one thing. Okay, so then she shares this screenshot from Profuse Mongoose, who says, I've gone on entire dates where they haven't asked me one thing about myself. Finally, one time at the end of a date, I asked, can you tell me one thing about me? And I was met by crickets. Another date, he was monologuing, like not even taking a breath, monologuing and I had to forcibly stop him and say, "Stop. This isn't a conversation. A conversation is you ask me something, I ask you something, then you wait for me to answer." Luckily, he thought it was funny and he tried for a bit. Then he went back to talking about himself. Then Phenomenal Woman responds with, "My last date was about 2 years ago. At one point, I looked at my watch to time how long he would talk without me saying a word. I believe it was around 30 minutes. He asked for a second date a few days later, and I said, I will go on a second date with you if you can tell me 3 things about myself. He got offended and said, Well, tell me 3 things about me, which I told him about 20, where he was born, his siblings, his parents' names, his favorite hobbies, his ex wife's name, his children's name, where they went to school, where he works, where he went to college. I basically told him his entire effing life, and he couldn't give me 3 facts about myself. Trash. Now, this is one of the reasons why men have a hard time cosplaying as women. Because, these men come into our spaces and they'll have a female avatar or name, and then they'll try to act like women, but they can't pull it off because they don't even listen to the experiences of women to even be able to act like one for very long because they don't listen to women. So then Holly says, I love anticipating the kind of angry man who thinks it's unreasonable for a woman to ask a man to tell her one single thing about herself after a first date. To that, Cider Timster says, maybe it's helpful to some, but I personally have no need for it. I just instantly know if I want to be talking to the person or not. We either click or we don't. The conversation either flows or it doesn't. No need for a quiz. It's a basic binary system with me. And then Holly says, you see how like centering this around you and what you want, what you like still means that you're not taking the other person into consideration whatsoever. You're just self-pleasuring in front of a person at that moment. That made Alani David say, women should also normalize paying for their own meals on dates. Because in order to make a man like listen to a woman, you just got to pay for the date. And then Fran at the bottom says, so he monologues at you and you have to spend your money to hear it. This is probably one of the reasons why women are just choosing to hang out with friends, go on solo dates, go travel with friends, because that way they're talking back and forth to another human that is taking an interest in what they're saying. And Tony says, probably the safest thing to do since more and more men seem to see it as being owed something if they pay. Right. They think that if they pay for some pizza, they should get some peaches. We'll just say peaches. Cidian says, then men like this always think the date went great. And Anastasia said, in quotes, she's a really good listener because he didn't actually give her a chance to talk. Exno Montreal says, I've sat next to dates where I could write a short biography of the man and couldn't note a single detail about the woman except perhaps her level of enthusiasm for each of the man's degrees, jobs, and international trips. Mild Rhetoric says, these are the kinds of men who are genuinely surprised when told listening is a skill before telling you a little bit more about themselves. Ari says, I've definitely been in similar situations like this. However, one I can think of that's more recent is talking to this man on the phone. OTP is on the phone. And he talked so much, I fell asleep for a few minutes. I woke up and he was still effing talking. Safe to say, I haven't spoken to him since. That is where we are with these things. They just like to talk and talk and talk, don't want to listen. And they have told us time and time again in these comment sections, they don't care about your accomplishments. They don't care about your successes. They don't care about anything outside of, are you fertile? Are you pretty? Will you take care of their kids? And can you cook and clean? They only see you as a bang maid and a servant. That's it. Jump in the comments. Let me know what you think about this thread. This is another good conversation starter. RFH says, because we live in a society that is fundamentally removed from birth, many young women don't really understand that women take on the entire toll of reproduction until they've had their first child. We've been lulled into a false sense of equality because we can have jobs and bank accounts now, but nature has not changed. Men take on zero reproductive costs unless he volunteers to do so. If there is anything young women need to understand before they get married, it's that it is of the utmost importance to marry a man who makes your life easier, or else you will become an overworked, resentful, and broken mess of a person. We have seen how raggedy first time motherhood can cause women to be, because we are sleep deprived while healing and taking on a new project. This baby is a brand new human project. And without some participation from the man, from the dad, and we really don't have lots of other support systems in this culture today, it will run you down. And you can think is something wonderful out of books or shows or cartoons, but you do not know. You don't know until you are smack dab in it. And it is definitely challenging. And more women need to talk about the realities of having babies. I'm not going to deep dive into the comments of this one. I have done too many Reddit and Twitter threads today. But this person says, one of your best PSAs yet. Between the well studied truths that A, men tend to overestimate their contribution to domestic labor, and B, most women naturally accept influence from men and adapt themselves to their needs, but most men don't return the favor. It's pretty critical to warn young women. Just know and understand what she just said just there. A man who isn't already generous in showing his love will not be truly open to learning how deeply having a child will affect absolutely every single thing about you. He probably, he also probably won't be supportive when your parents get old and sick and need more of your emotional energy and time. Another thing a young woman isn't sitting around thinking about, because caretaking, whether it is of the babies or the elderly in your family, typically falls on the women. And young ladies really, really need to know and understand this. And it's hard to gauge whether or not your partner is going to be a partner when it's time to pull some of that stress off of your shoulders. It's hard to vet that, because they can say, I want these children. I want a family. I want us to do A, B, C, and D. But then once that child is here, and you're doing it all, not even having a chance to take a shower or a poop without him bringing the baby in as soon as it starts crying, then you see that, man, you made a mistake, you didn't know, but totally do not have a second or third child with that person. Just don't, because all of it will fall on you. All right, jump in the comments. Let me know what you think of these two tweets and life and having babies and all of that. Drop what you have seen, what you have experienced yourself, so that young women know and understand what is coming. Like, comment, share.